So, what would you say are some of your strengths?
I would say that some of my personal strengths are being able to, over time, I've learned how to become more proactive as a person. I was definitely very reactive when I was younger, but having that training in regards to proactivity has helped me manage my emotions much better, and that has helped me deal with different types of people. And that has benefited me very well because I know that there's a time and a place for everything, and I choose my time, my place wisely. I would say another strength of mine is being able to connect with different types of people. I think a lot of that has to do with my energy and yeah, the energy that is extended from my ADHD. But I would say, yeah, that's another thing. Um, and just belief, hope. I would say that is the strength. The ability to see the future, or at least see my future, and really believe in it and have deep faith in it that it will come true. It's not a question of if; it's a matter of when. And a lot of that stems from the rejection, rather, I received over time. Large part of that has to do with the effects of my ADHD. So, in a sense, that's turning my pain into my pleasure or my problems into my profit.
Nice. And just briefly, what kind of training would you say you received when it comes to learning how to, be proactive?
Like reading books such as Stephen Covey, Seven Habits. That definitely started off, and the analogy between a soda bottle or water bottle. But just experience. You in life, you will interact with different types of people. Some of them close to you, some of them not close to you. You feel me? That you have to say, all right, how do you deal with this person? And you can't, and you gotta pick your battles and understand what's necessary and what's not.
Um, so now, what would you say are some of the challenges that you face because of ADHD?
I would say the challenges, it has varied over time. ADHD, I would say it affects me much differently. I notice nowadays than it did when I was younger. When I was younger, the biggest challenge was sitting still. And it kind of is sitting still, but in a different sense. Like, I couldn't sit still in the classroom. Like, school, there was this, I don't know how to describe it, but and I never could focus at school. And I always wondered when I was younger, why can't I help it? I was very hyper. And I just couldn't, I can't describe the feeling of hyper. It's like this rush, this adrenaline rush. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. Around the hallways, I need to do something of interest. And I would say definitely with the schooling that I received, there was not much to cater to my personal way of learning, my creative side, which now I'm able to cater to much more. So this is why ADHD affects me in different ways. Now it's being able to focus on something for a long period of time, or being able to handle my emotions. Emotions have been one of the biggest things for me. Um, as it is, if you do research for anyone with ADHD, the emotional instability is a big thing. It's like I just dramatize everything. I read into people's emotions and the energy that they give off, and I make my own interpretation about it, as we all do, but maybe sometimes I can do it much faster than others, and that may be not always a good thing because it may not always be true. My perception of how somebody is communicating with me. Um, but yeah, I would say the difficult part nowadays is really just seeing it, learning how to use the benefits of it all. Because it's not a curse, it's a blessing. I realized that I wasn't able to communicate how I felt because ADHD is not always something that's visible. So people weren't always able to understand it. Rather, if they knew I had ADHD or not, I received consequences that I definitely feel were unfair many times, or seclusion that I felt was very unfair many times at the time. But that's why I always had hope, going back to my strengths and motivation and vision, that okay, in the future this will be the life that I want, and I get to create the life that I want for myself, and no one will be able to tell me what to do. And I'm on a path to doing that. So.
Right.
Mhm.
In what ways has this disability, impacted your educational experiences? I know you kind of started to
Mhm.
touch upon that, but
Mhm.
what do you think have been like the biggest,
Mhm.
impacts that it's had on you?
Yeah, I would say having ADHD, the biggest impact it has had on my educational experience is basically it has created a label for me without the actual label of ADHD. So I've received this label of bad student, or a person who misbehaves, or a person who's always hard to deal with, a person who needs extra attention. But that attention, people, at least teachers, I didn't. It didn't seem like they saw that as a good attention. It was attention that people didn't want to go near. But it was always those teachers I got to give credit to, as staff members, not only teachers. It was staff members, the people who worked in schools, who were the ones who chose to give me the time, give me the energy, give me the attention, to see me as a regular human being, to see me as a person who's just me, instead of judging me with some type of label, and who decided to reason with me and level with me as an individual. And those were always the people who were able to reach me and influence me positively. But I would say that besides those people, it has been pure hell, especially, I would say, even though I switched schools from public school to a charter school, and the way that I was received, or at least when it comes to how my ADHD was dealt with, I don't think there's enough that's being done in these schools, all across the board. I mean, someone can know you can have something like ADHD, but you would still receive the same amount of consequences or the same type of attention or response as the person who does it, and you are expected to compete at the same level, which is a good thing, because it has built up a fortitude in me that has exceeded many of those people, those others who didn't have ADHD. But it also is a bad thing because it comes with a lot of isolation and feeling different and not knowing how to deal with it or who to talk to about it, But you're not in school, you're not put in a group with other people with ADHD and told to talk about how does it feel to have ADHD, so you don't have people, even though I knew there were others who did have ADHD, there was not that comfort created to be able to have those conversations about how we are the same, because again, it's like I can't explain to you what it means to have it, And though nowadays everybody say they have ADHD or ADD just because they can't focus, well, part of that could be true, but it also can be, well, we just live in a different world with short attention spans, and we all have and we acknowledge that we all work in different ways, but that doesn't validate one having ADHD. Especially when I think back to me being younger, and me literally cannot help sitting down, And I don't know how to describe that again. I just can't. But there were plenty of days where I'm like, why am I this way? Why can't I sit down? Because I felt that way because I knew the consequences that would come with my actions. But not many staff or teachers chose to really level with that over the course of my educational history. But respecting me as a whole, understand that ADHD comes with me, you feel me? And that needs to be acknowledged, and treating me as a person. I've had people since first grade who would tell me they didn't like me, actual staff members and teachers. And this, I'm not being dramatic. People who, just get other students to fight me. People who would just really had a grudge against me, actual teachers and staff. And in addition to teachers who weren't as extreme, or staff members who weren't as extreme, but staff members who dismissed my issues. They didn't give a shit. It wasn't their concern. And yeah, and it's like, you're the problem child. I always needed attention, and it's like, okay, so what do? I was stuck in a hard position to be in as a child, because there was no one to advocate for me and no one to listen to me. I didn't get the advocacy at home because people at home didn't understand it as well or how to deal with it as well. Now that I've gone through it, having ADHD, I figure that, people at home have a better time now dealing with my younger brother who also has ADHD. So I'm glad to see that, at least. And I'm glad to be able to tell this story so people such as yourself who are going to be teachers